our paths are all different, and they should not be limited by what we set out to do from the beginning, but really our path is truly unbounded. It's limitless.
Every single individual has a story to tell, and they're great stories that need to be heard.
I want every listener to know they have the ability to change the world.
Welcome to the 1720 Podcast.
What's up, Mountain Movers? Welcome back to the 1720 Podcast. This Friday, you have an opportunity to see us live at Trinity Church with Ruiz Co. We're going to be tackling exhaustion, burnout. We have a special guest. This is a free event at Trinity Church in Cedar Hill. I know registration link is on our Instagram main page, and we posted last week what the agenda looks like. It's going to be unique for us. We don't really know what we're walking into, but we'll try to get some audience interaction with that. Should be a fun time.
Yeah, there was a short link that is bit.ly/17T live, all caps. That's how you register.
No cap.
No, actually, it's all caps. No cap. Right?
Sorry, Gerald.
Yeah, all caps, no cap.
Go Caps.
Holly's like, what in the world? Special guest, Holly Crowder back. Welcome to the studio.
Hey guys, excited to be here today.
You don't get no cap? That doesn't register with you?
No.
It's like the cool kids' way of saying I ain't lying, right?
It is. Yeah, but I think they're past that.
I'm not cool.
As soon as you catch up on the words, far from it. As soon as you catch up and start using it at youth ministry, they're like, no, we're on this now.
I have that conversation daily with my child in the car. What does that mean? Because that's new to me, or not new to me, and I'm now showing my age.
Totally. We're old and not cool. Period. All right. Great episode, y'all.
Yeah, wrap it up. If you can find a definition on Urban Dictionary, it's no longer cool. Like, it's past.
Okay.
I
missed it then.
Yeah.
Totally.
All right. I guess that's where we wrap this.
Yeah. Let's give a proper introduction.
Yeah,
so Holly Crowder, about 3 years ago, roughly, she joined us as a guest. And it was kind of like we would see each other at Texo, acquaintance, like a friend, but, just like more of an acquaintance. After coming on the show, has become a really, really close friend that is near and dear to both of our hearts. But just to set the stage here, so 3 years ago, we reach out, and she's doing work with a GC firm at the time, and we just see all the incredible things she's doing in Texo. Don't know a ton about your story, to be quite honest. And we're like, hey, why don't you come on? And it was when we used to be proactive, Stewie, and have like you were booked like a month in advance, something like that. That's no longer a thing, as you can clearly tell. We're just in time construction.
Lean. We're very lean.
Jinx.
There it is.
We're lean podcasting.
We're leaning. In the gap between booking you and you coming on the show, you had made the decision to resign from your position. And I remember you asking, hey, this has happened. I want to be transparent. Are you still interested in having me? And I'm like, yeah, of course. That's not why we're having you on whatsoever. And so we unpack why we had you on, which I know we're going to break down. And it becomes the most listened to episode in our catalog, 150 episode plus later.
Right.
The story's incredible. It's one of those testimonies where somebody hears it, they share it, and we just watch that through, the background of it went from city to city, person to person, because it just resonated with so many people. And it was definitely a godly moment. There was healing from it for you and for others, and so many stories from it. But now we're 3 years-ish into this journey from that episode. And I think a lot of people, I know we know the details, but we want to share all the life that's been lived since then and what has been spun up and the things that you're doing. And so we are so excited to have you back.
I'm super excited. I still can't believe it's the number one episode.
Yeah, it is.
Blows my mind. Come on, Lou Corella.
Are you gunning for number 2? No.
It just blows my mind a little bit that I think sometimes one of your guys' things is we all have a story to tell, and some stories do impact people differently, and I think it spreads around a little differently. And so I am honored that that's the case, and I'm glad that maybe my story can help somebody out there that listens.
Totally.
You don't know this, but your episode is the one I go back to most, because it's it has great breadth and it has great depth also. And so there are moments across all the things we talked about that I'll oftentimes say, we recorded something with Holly about that. Go look at the 45-minute mark. And it's always something different, but I have like this, we've talked about it before, sort of encyclopedia style recollection of everything. And I'm like, oh yeah, no, there's a great segment on onboarding people in there. It's about, it's in go, just, there's a great section about this. And they go, so I send people back almost 3 years later, back to it all the time. I did 2 weeks ago. So it's don't sell any of it short. Like, it is wonderful, and the episode is great, and the story is great. But to Kev's point, let's pull it forward. This is a long since in the making. We have been asking you to come do this for a year?
Over a year, but it's not any of our timing on when this episode gets re-aired. And I don't want to go all the way to today, because some of the things I don't know, you could just see numbers and statistics, but I don't think we've actually debriefed on this. But husband dies from ALS, and that's the journey and crusade that you're on of tackling that with your family and serving through the foundation and all that sort of stuff. But I think that was a big step for you of, handling the adversity from it to like broadcasting out to the masses that this is where my life is. And so just want to open that up. Like, what did that do for you personally from a healing standpoint? And then outwardly, what were the stories of impact that you may have heard from listeners?
I think, honestly, I lived my story without sharing my story. Even people that I worked with on a daily basis didn't really actually know my story. I kept my personal home life and what I was going through very close to the vest, so to speak. And I think being able to sit down and walk through it and put it out there for people to hear sort of gave me the chance to like get it off my chest a little bit of what this looked like and what I was going through, and trying to be all in all aspects of my life and truly not being able to do that. And I think if we think back to the timing of that, 2020 going into 2021, and so many other people were experiencing a lot of those same things at the same time, not ALS specific, but loss of a loved one or struggling with the health of a loved one and trying to navigate life and all of those challenges. And I think that sort of resonated in a different way than maybe what I was ever thinking it was going to resonate. And I think it's given me the chance to really lean into others' stories like that and have those conversations and just truly be open to hearing that and open to receiving that, and not for anything other than to be somebody that can sort of understand what they might be experiencing. So I think by sharing that story, I also opened up the door for the larger community of people that I interact with that have been touched by ALS to have a conversation about it. And knowing what it's like to be a caregiver with somebody that you love that is going through what they're going through, be it a terminal disease or just another type of illness. And so how do you respond and how can you show up for each other and things like that? So I think getting the platform, which was not really the original reason we started to sit down and have that conversation, it really shifted in that session of going out and people that know me very, very well that didn't know I was going through that. Like, again, I kept that very sort of private for the most part. And so it was me opening the door, maybe taking down the wall a little bit and sort of exposing myself to something that I was maybe not ready or willing to share before.
Yeah. And personally, I hadn't taken my mask off when you came on. Mine wasn't off. I don't even know if you knew my background, and I'm not telling the story to tell a story type of deal. But how many of us hide behind that mask? It was this week. It wasn't the one that you said you got gut punched by, but what was Craig Rochelle's? We impress people by our strengths, but we connect with them through our weaknesses.
Yeah,
and because we all have them.
We all have them.
And when you're bold and courageous enough to share, that there's connectivity, there's healing, there's all the things from it.
Yeah, we should lean into our strengths and use them for good, but we all have the weaknesses that make us who we are and make us the human that we are. And that's our human side that we need to also let others see.
Yeah, there's a element of, we've said it before, but there's an element of vulnerability being a superpower. And just saying, look, this is who I am. And in order to interact with me, you need to know this about me. This is not me throwing a pity party or needing your sympathy, but I just want you to know that this is where I am on this. And, oh, I understand that now. I understand a little bit better how you show up now, and have a little bit more empathy towards all of it and understand all of that. And it is a superpower. And I think you said it, we titled the episode, but the idea, the notion that it's okay to not be okay.
Yeah.
It's liberating, because we all live in a society where put your best clothes on and present in the best. I didn't put that little nugget together just right, but you know what I'm saying? It's keep it together, that sort of thing.
I think that there has been a great evolution, though, in the last several years around that notion that showing up with our mental health in the state it is, and then seeking out and asking for and be willing to say that I'm struggling, or I'm running into something that I don't know how to get through. I think it's awesome to see that progression for people, that they're more willing to have that conversation, because we used to always live behind it, so to speak. And so I freely talk about it now. Some days I show up with not the strongest sort of emotional strength, and other days I show up, Matt Fisher and I'm dropping
there it is. We didn't do it.
Quota.
Yeah.
He and I have a joke about sort of our first interaction and meeting, and how he showed up versus how I showed up. And the next time we met, about talking and kind of going through it again, I was the one that was not keeping it together. So I think it's important that we allow ourselves that opportunity to really lean into who we are.
Yeah. And I think when what you just said, like, we're evolving, the evolution of vulnerability is only happening because people like you are taking a huge step forward.
Oh yeah.
That was a huge leap. Like, we were going to talk, HR, no, I'm not belittling that.
No.
But compared to this, it is, right? Like, this was big time to go through that testimony.
Yeah.
And so, huge step. Healing comes from it, but not complete healing, right? Every day is a journey.
Every day. But
what about the openness to share? Like, are you at the drop of a hat, whoever needs to hear it can hear it, or are you still?
Well, yes. So what I think is interesting is I'm super willing to share the story and really talk about my journey now. You may or may not get a really put together Holly, or you may get literally the first time you've ever met me on a Zoom call crying because it just caught me in a way that day. I did that a couple weeks ago, literally the first time I've ever met this individual on a Zoom meeting. And he was like, well, fill me in a little bit about who you are and where you come from and why you're on this journey now. And it was one of those moments that I was like, oh gosh. And
it comes at you like a left hook you didn't see.
And it's okay. And I think part of it for me is understanding that is truly okay, and that is who I am. That's the real me. And I'm okay showing that. Like, I don't like to look at myself. Kevin Carey likes to send pictures of me on Zoom meetings. Sometimes not the best looking reaction.
It only goes to you, though.
On my face.
Man, I've been the subject of that bit before, too. I do not approve, but there's nothing you can do about it.
Nothing. And I'm like, oh.
Well, it's just so you know, it's graduated to scare videos. So it's much worse.
Sweet. Great.
What is it?
From capturing her talking on Zoom calls that we're a part of to now, if you turn a corner, I'm recording on video scaring you, which also we've been victim of many a time.
Yeah. So I'm always like, oh, Kevin got another one. Darn it.
You hear the ding ding and you're like, oh, here we go.
Gosh. With friends like these.
So yes, I'm much more willing now to like lean in and have that conversation. And I have it a lot with people, all kinds of interactions. But again, I may not always show up with the fully put together Holly.
So what's the reaction to that? That's a really broad question, but I guess really what I'm picking at there is the idea of, there's an appropriate reaction and there's an inappropriate reaction, and people do crazy things, and I'm guessing you get or have gotten a whole variety of them. Like, what's the talk me through that, because really what I want to angle back at is like people who are receiving or listening to or having that conversation, like advice for them.
Most people, I think their initial is like, "Whoa, I'm sorry." I haven't gotten any like weirdly inappropriate responses. That is kind of funny. I'll have to think about that some more. But I think the big thing then is like, how do they then continue into that conversation if that's not what they were prepared for me to say to them? Because it sometimes puts them a little off where they were at. But I think just being open to that dialogue and saying it is okay. Like, I have a bigger platform now to talk about what happened in our lives and what that looks like for other people in the ALS community. But I think part of it is by talking about it, we all get the chance to heal a little bit more. So every time I share that story, every time I get to have somebody ask me more questions about what that was like, it's a chance for me to, one, get more comfortable saying it, but also two, to really like sort of continue to take that burden off of myself about what that is. So again, I think people are not understanding. That was a little bit what we talked about earlier. You don't necessarily understand, but they certainly can feel that empathy of what loss looks like and what grief looks like. We've all experienced it in our lives, and to differing scales and differing perspectives. And I think for when you start having that conversation with somebody, they're oftentimes more willing to then to talk about their own grief or their own loss, being from whatever perspective it's coming from. So I think the kind of the cool thing that those conversations start to do is it gives that other person permission to sort of share some of their own perspective around it. So
that's a great word, permission, right? Because you don't. That's the perfect word, actually, because it's not an obligation. Like
No.
I have because of the situation or because of the context or because of the conversation, I have shared this with you. Period.
Mm-hmm.
There's no reciprocal expectation.
Right.
But you now have permission that we can talk about that. If not, that's okay too.
Right.
Man, that's the perfect word. Like, that's probably the perfect response to all of it too, is like just to understand that, like, when someone has that conversation like that with you, it's just permission. It's okay to just say, man, that's really terrible, and I'm sorry that you had to experience that, and move on. Like,
Yes.
that's okay.
Yes.
It's permission for that too, but it's also permission to say, me too. Like, my ex had Y,
Right.
and then this
Right.
Z thing happened to us, and
Right.
so that's perfect. Yeah.
I think that's also true for when you're in those moments and when you're going through that too. There's times when you don't want to talk about it and you don't want to share that, and you're going to keep that close. And so making the decision when it's okay to engage in that type of conversation. If you have a friend that's going through cancer diagnosis or whatnot, like, don't always assume that it's okay to go question them about what they're going through and how they're feeling about it, because they may not be in the right place and space to talk about it at that moment in time. So let them give you that permission to have that conversation. I think it's important. Go ahead.
You want to rock, paper, scissors to see who goes? Or
I was going to be paper.
I was going to be scissors. So
right,
anyway,
let's another Holly episode
I'll
of
be
Stewie
rock.
Ramrodden.
Is that what happened last time?
I wasn't even at the last one.
No, that's not true.
I talked a grand total of 38 seconds.
False.
39.
Anyway, I already forgot my question was, though. So go ahead with yours. My brains are mush.
This is where we're at, 150 episodes in
the ditch.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I was reflecting so much on the testimony piece, and like, Scripture talks to you in different seasons of life and within worship music. And I know, like, in between choruses, I heard this song, and it's like, if you have a testimony, you should testify. And like, there's so much truth to that, right?
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be polished. It doesn't have to be the same each time.
Right.
It doesn't matter on the reactions you get each time. You know of one specifically where I gave it and I really bummed the crowd out. Like, it was not the right time to do it. And, but you keep plowing.
Yeah.
You keep plowing because there's vulnerability, accountability, impact, all the things, the evolution, but it's worth it.
It's going to help somebody.
Yes. But I want to point out how admirable you are to me when it comes to the level of grit and resilience you've been through. I got mine, right? But yours is different than mine. And I may not have walked through it yet, but the key word's yet. Like there's going to be outward tragedy that happens with people. And I got to see you walk through it at a level of grace and vulnerability and transparency and level-headedness, and I'm sure you had your rough days. There's no doubt about it, but it prepares me to get ready for the tragedies of life. So it's not just the relatability for people in the moment, it's for the future. You're a walking example of how I need to act when those inevitable things do pop up.
Thank you.
Well, it's it's a mentorship moment, right? Because when those moments happen, you can think, and I'll use you an example, and it'll be a little awkward, but like, how did Holly handle that? Like, I remember her doing a great job. How'd she do it? And that's no different than a classic mentor moment where you're like, I was in a meeting once with Stuart, and how did he handle that? Okay, this is it is a different twist on mentorship that I would have never thought until Kevin said what he just said. But setting an example for someone to pattern themselves after in those moments when they're faced with them, that's what that is.
I wouldn't have thought about that way either, but that's a really cool analogy and a way of thinking about it, because I think we all can do that for ourselves if we step back and think about it a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's like the find your tribe type of person. Mm-hmm. So like we always say, or at least I always say, Josh Carson's my dad. He's my dad mentor. Man, that dude's an awesome dad. He always talks about his kids first. Someday when I have kids, I want to be like him. And like Keon's my business mentor. Like you're my grit and resilience mentor. You don't even need that official title. I'm just watching and observing, and I'm taking note. That's what I think people get wrong with tribes and mentorships. Like you got to have this
piece of paper on it.
Yeah. Blood oath. Let's cut it open. Let's sign it with blood. No, just pay attention. Pay attention and get better to the people around you.
Yeah. Also, you just said Josh Carson is my dad.
If you cut it and edit it,
I know.
That's going to be the opener to Holly's episode.
Josh Carson is my dad. Is the opener.
You're not going to let me finish the sentence?
No.
You'll like it.
That's awesome.
In and out of serious. Like you're trying to get your car to swerve out of control. Just left, right.
We got a death rattle here.
Yeah. That's not a good analogy right now, teaching the teenager how to drive.
Ooh, how's that going?
That is some stress right there. I don't know why they can't just have driver's ed like we used to.
Right. Why has the educational system offloaded everything to us?
It's we did drive in the rain the other day, so it was good, successful, made it home. So that was a big moment. Because it's now raining. It hasn't rained in months.
When is your 16-year-old birthday happening? And not yours, but
November 6th.
Oh, we talked about this because William's birthday is the 7th. Yeah.
She won't be getting her license on the 6th, though. We're not ready. We're not even close. We do have an appointment sometime in the future. I don't know that we'll be ready then either.
Rain day is a good training day. Like, hey, look, DFW goes berserk.
Oh, yeah.
If you see somebody's hazards on, that means they have no trust in their own driving ability.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, just stay clear.
We like, I'm like, what do we do different? It's raining today, so how do you show up and respond differently?
Yeah.
And I try to really lean into the patience as a parent that I don't often have.
Patience. I might not be swearing anymore with Quinn in the back seat.
Oh.
But she does say, hurry up already, right, Dad? And I'm like, I still got some work left to do with my rage.
You and me both.
The light's green, buddy.
You biscuit-eating bulldog.
That's Quinn from the back seat. Yeah. She's throwing
all my swear replacements.
Throwing pasta at the front. Like, I don't know why, but she has pasta in the back. But
she's just trying to be relatable.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's a season, right?
Yeah,
That's a season.
That's a whole new season.
Okay.
I have a funny car story. Do we want to talk about it now?
Sorry.
A funny car story?
Mm-hmm.
Bring it.
Yeah. So
we're way off. Let's go.
Yeah, we're in that season where everybody's getting their driver's license, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a kid in our orbit who got his driver's license, and within the first week, totaled his car.
That is I hear about that all the time.
Brutal. Just got trying to turn left at an intersection, got confused, thought maybe you needed to turn right, lost track of the light, kind of panicked, turned left into traffic, bang.
Yeah.
Glad it wasn't William.
Yeah.
And I get to tell that story like, hey, dog, be careful.
Yeah. It's no joke out there.
There's no joke out there.
We talk about reversing because as I sit in campus picking up my kids, like the girls driving their cars, and I'm like, that's why their car looks the way it does, because they don't know what they're doing.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Scratched up, dented up.
Oh, God. It's a terrible jungle out there, man.
So,
and we're going to release our children into it.
I'm going to pull us back. That's what I do, Stuart.
I know.
Get us back on track.
I can't stay serious anymore.
Get us back to the prep sheet.
So and you didn't even get one, so you're soldiering this intentionally just to make this as authentic as possible. But our side of the fence has one. The seasons that followed, so you made that call not to jump into anything new, but to be still.
Yep.
That was your goal.
Yeah.
What did that stillness look like? How long was it before next steps took?
So I just gave myself 6 months to do literally nothing, which seems crazy and scary and not productive. But honestly, it was super productive because it gave me the chance to really clear my head and reevaluate what truly was important for me as I went forward, and stepping back from a big responsibility and a stable income and all of those things, but to just be with my girls and figure out what we needed to do to heal and go forward and figure out life now as 3 versus 4. And I gave myself 6 months, and so did little bits of randomness until I started thinking about what were those parts of my career life that gave me back energy and sort of refilled my buckets, so to speak. And it was still all about the people at the end of the day. Like, I love leaning in and helping people figure out what it is that they're going to do and how they're going to do it. And so took some time to sit in that for a bit, and then decided that I was going to go and pursue what people told me I was doing all the time, but really hadn't thought about that as my job, which was coaching. And we have coaches all throughout our lives in different phases and different types of coaches. And so went and figured out, well, a lot of what I did for the last however many years was coaching without really ever realizing that was the title of what I was doing. And so pursued that, and then said, okay, I'm going to start my own business. What? I'm not Kevin with the Mountain Mover facade. So for me, it was a scary step. I had really leaned into my career with a very stable sort of outlook on the way that I went about work and pursued that. And so making that decision to say, I'm not going to go back and tackle like a real job again, a real corporate job again, that I'm going to go and try to really just be me for myself. And some of the things that were super important to me was I wanted that control of my life and my schedule, and when I could be mom and when I could be chauffeur and when I could be work holly, all wrapped up, because I felt like some of my life before had been not focused on those things. And so I went through the process of like, how do you do this and figure this out? And I started Unbounded Path, and that name comes from as I look back, and the story I always told about my own career was my path is so not straight. It's very random and stopped and started and moved around. But my favorite poem is The Road Not Taken by Robert Frost. And in it, the poem is talking about the two paths, and I took the one less traveled by. And what for many of us, if you know that poem and read that poem, it's very much about, we would think it's about making those decisions in your life. Well, I actually went and researched what he was talking about in the poem, and he wrote it as a joke, which I think is kind of funny now, but it still resonates with me that our paths are all different, and they should not be limited by what we set out to do from the beginning, but really our path is truly unbounded. It's limitless. It is what we make of it and the decisions we make along the way and our willingness to take those opportunities. And For me, taking that step back from my bigger corporate job and leaning into the chance to take an opportunity to really try something new and do something new, but do something that made me happy and gave me excitement, was super important at that phase in my life. And so that's leading me to this path that I'm on now, which is being that entrepreneur and figuring out how to manage my business and grow and all of those things. So, but still focused on helping those people get to where they're going on their own paths.
Yeah, there's a great nugget in there to come back and just double down on, which is the path is limitless.
Yeah.
And I would say 95% of our listeners heard that and kind of skimmed over it, but it's worth coming back to because they think, yeah, I'm just going to do this job right here for 2 more years.
Right.
And then I'm going to get promoted to that one. I see that guy, and I'm going to do that one for 2 more years. And then I'm going to, and there's just where you're like on train tracks.
Yes. And we should not live our lives like we're on train tracks.
Yeah.
It's good to have some thoughts about where you're going and what that looks like. But I think don't be afraid of what else is in front of you, even if it's train track adjacent.
Mm-hmm. Before we dig further in Unbounded Path, I have a question on that timeline.
Yeah.
Did you set that? Like, I'm going to give myself 6 months, or did you say I'm going to give myself infinite? And then 6 months later, you knew it was time?
For me, I think from a standpoint of, I didn't want to sit idle for too long, meaning like when you're going through grief and loss, sometimes you need to sit and just do that, right? But other aspects of that for me was that I still actually needed to like have something out in front of me for purpose, and so that I would not, unfortunately, not get out of bed kind of thing. So I think for me, I did in my head go, I'm going to give myself permission to take this 6 months. And if you don't get out of bed every day, that's maybe okay. But I had girls to worry about. So had I said I'm going to take like limitless, I don't know that I would have pulled myself out when I should have pulled myself out if I didn't give myself some kind of parameter to kind of set that stage.
That's good insight. I wouldn't have thought about that.
Yeah.
To pull you out if you got too stuck. Like that could overswing the pendulum of healing and actually be counterproductive.
Well, and I mean, grief comes in waves and there's different stages and phases and it never fully goes away. But part of it is like just letting it become all consuming and not leaning into that, because that can be tragic.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't even imagine how to articulate what I want to say or wrestle through the doing of it. But that idea that the grief deserves its time, but it does not deserve all the time.
Right.
And how you manage that on a completely individual basis.
It is very individualized. Yeah.
Like it's just really hard.
Yeah.
I said that like I know. I can only imagine it is just really hard to find the line and know when time is right, and just kind of got to read your emotions and know who you are. And to your point, set a backstop to say, this is it. This is the amount of time or whatever. And
I didn't do all of that by myself. I mean, I have a therapist that I see. I see a psychiatrist. Like there's people and resources available for those pieces of our lives that we need help with. And I participated in a grief group specific to caregivers of ALS patients, and again, because they were the only ones that truly understood. But it just was being willing to have that conversation with that group and with others, and being vulnerable enough to share all the junk that was in your head. So, but I think for me, the 6 months kind of was a good boundary to like give myself before I started figuring it out.
Yeah, what we water grows. Like there's manifestation of things, and if you don't set those boundaries, you could get stuck in there. I didn't really even think about that till you started talking about it.
Yeah,
manifestation's a mindset.
Absolutely,
it could get you stuck there. So Unbounded Path, we know your purpose. We know your coaching. We know, I think Mr. Matt maybe was your first client. Was he your first?
He was my first client.
You're not the first guest for him to be first client.
Yeah.
That's how Matt Fisher rolls.
He's awesome. And I very much appreciate him and his friendship more than the business, probably, actually. So,
totally. And you're rocking a Woodhouse Stanley.
I got my cool cup.
We'll make sure it's in the picture.
Yeah, for sure. That's a really nice one.
Yeah. Thanks, Matt. I'm enjoying mine too.
Wait a minute.
No, that's sarcasm. I don't have it.
Oh, because I thought I just got left out.
No, we're in the left out tree together.
Sorry, I think I might have been the first one to get one, maybe behind his team. I don't know. We had a meeting when I think they first came in. So
the Matt Fisher roller coaster, we pick him up just to throw him back down.
Yeah, oh, he's great, except for when he taking care of his friends.
I'm so sorry, Matt.
It's all in good fun. It's all in good fun.
Actually, I was really excited because every young person in the world, I think, is carrying one of those around. And I was like, I'm not the cool person yet. I didn't have a Stanley. So when he gave it to me, I was like, I'm cool.
I don't think it works like that. Like, I don't think you just become like instant
Stuart,
cool.
You just burst my bubble.
I thought we were having real talk. I didn't know we were. No, it's instant cool. It's fine. I'll cut it back to where it says instant cool.
No. We began the podcast
totally
saying
cool.
how old and uncool we are.
Yeah.
So we got to ride that train.
I was old and uncool, and now I felt like my status went up just a tiny bit. With
Unbounded Path. Yeah, now you're cool.
Now I'm cool. So.
Fair enough.
There you go.
We can do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm gonna
pull us back.
I'm
sorry.
Exhausted
pull us
by
back
having
again.
to get us back out of the ditch. Who's the perfect client, customer? Client. People call it different things. And who is it?
I would say it is. They don't have to be a leader. They have to be somebody that leads. Mm-hmm. And we all lead from different places in our spaces and times in our lives. And so someone who leads that is willing and able and desiring the opportunity to grow themselves both personally and professionally, and is willing to do the work. When you think about the coaching, even from a sports analogy, the coach is there to really help them navigate how to get better. And I'm not the one doing the work. They're doing the work. And so I call it a co-collaborative relationship where we work in tandem to work through their issues. I'm not giving you the answer. I don't know the answer. I mean, I know some of the answers, but I don't know your answers. And so how do we work in partnership to make that happen for them, work through their goals, work through what their roadblocks are, et cetera. So the other part of that for me is I'm really leaning into the AEC industry space. That's where I grew up. That's where I started. That's where my knowledge base is. That's where my friends are. That's where I feel very comfortable and know that this industry has a tremendous heart to work together, especially in our area of the country. Like we are moving together to make this better for the generation of builders today and the generation of builders for tomorrow. And so for me, I think that's a really unique sort of space. When you go through the coaching training, they always talk about what's your niche and like, what are you going to focus on? And initially I was like, what does that even mean? But as I've sort of like stepped back out of that and continue to evolve my business, knowing that this industry has so many opportunities in different forms and fashions. And so that's important to me to sort of lean in and give back to the space that gave me so much of where I've come from and who I am today. So
the only thing I would add to that is that I wonder how many people don't even know they need that help. You know what I mean? Like some people are like, oh yeah, that's cool for so. Brad probably needs a coach, but man, like
we all could use one.
Yeah. That's really the point I'm angling at is like,
yeah, we all could use one. And what I think is also interesting is I seek it out to help me now with my business and what I'm doing. I just did a training yesterday on it from 2 super experienced coaches that have been doing this a much longer time than I have. And I think part of it is we have to be willing to receive that too. And so not everybody's ready.
Yeah.
But if you are, it's an opportunity to really make yourself better and stronger as you go forward.
There's a this is my encyclopedic knowledge of the podcasting, but
Yeah.
remember we had Kent Rabley on? Do you remember Kent, my buddy from
producer?
My buddy from might be my oldest friend. One of the things he said was every hero needs a guide.
Yeah.
That's it. I mean, you may not think you do.
Yeah.
But every hero needs a guide.
Absolutely.
And this is it, yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, and I've had a front row seat, you know, I don't even know if that was on air or not, talking about the Zoom pictures. Because we've been on so many meetings together, Mountain Movers and Unbounded Path. And so you're doing individual stuff, but you're doing a lot of group stuff too. And you're a beast at the group stuff.
Absolutely.
So it's not just individual coaching.
Correct. So for my sort of path itself, I spent a lot of time, I was going to go be a teacher. That was one of the stops along my journey at one point in time. And
story checks out.
Story does check out. For me, that piece of helping the groups work together and figure out what that either leadership development or whatever the specific topic might be, I get excited about that whole room of people that's like, yes, we're going to go do this and figure this out. So I do spend probably, I would say, almost half of my time might be more on team or group facilitation related items, which is super fun and exciting. And it's sort of like the force multiplier, I guess, of that coaching mentality of how do you grow it in a bigger way at the same time.
I don't know what the right word is here. Like fake, pretend with me for a minute. Like you get the call from an individual who says, "Hey, I want to be better and I know I need help. Can you please help me?" Right? That's not exactly how it goes, but what is the group facilitation conversation? How does that get started? Like I'm calling Holly and saying what? I don't even know where to start.
Like part of it is you have to show up with something that you want to work on, right? So maybe it's the use of your and your.
Sure, right. It's a big problem.
Big problem.
Yeah.
So my job would be to pull out via asking you questions and seeking you to be thinking about it because you can figure out that answer, or at least give yourself some opportunity to figure out that answer. What's either holding you back from making that decision? What is that roadblock that's in your way? What's coming from the sideline that's might be interrupting that?
Yeah.
All of those things. So, and then if you step back from that in the bigger group setting, we all show up with our own experiences and parts of our lives that help inform the way that we're going to respond in those types of settings. And so being willing to voice that and share that in different ways, I think it's that mentorship about how did Stuart show up in that moment? And man, he handled that so well. You just did that earlier with Kevin, with giving him some kudos on a way he dealt with a situation. So we all have that ability to do that. And so it's really capturing that and putting that together.
Yeah. And it those ideas lay on top of different sorts of substance or subject matter idea. That's what I was getting at. Like, do I call you and say, "Hey, we have a real bad grammar problem. Can you help me with that?" Or do I call and say, "Hey, I don't know where we're going.
Yeah.
And I'm having trouble figuring out what's next for," and either one of those are like, I can help you with that.
Yes.
That makes sense.
And I think part of it too is if in a coaching relationship, there has to be a connection there. And so if it's not a good connection though, we're gonna realize that this isn't the right fit. And then here's somebody else maybe that was a better fit or is a better opportunity for you. Because it's personal. And I think you have to want to have conversations with this individual. Not everybody we interact with is somebody that wants to have a conversation with you.
Yeah.
I think the difference that I saw, you might disagree with this, is the groups are broader spectrum than the individual coaching. So like the groups are like, we got this group of people, we want you to just pour into them with topics. And then we start tackling topics, and that's how her and I coordinated. The coaching seems to be like, these are next up. I want you to specifically pour into this person. And what I found interesting some of the times, like with people I was coaching, they're like, are we gonna ever transition to work? You know?
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is
the work.
The byproduct will be better work.
Yes,
like
100%.
I'm focused on you. And I think that's, to your earlier question, that's where companies struggle on understanding the need for it because there's no pull plan. There's no Gantt chart. It's not a construction thing.
Yeah.
But the problem is we're all broken in the industry. So if we could become better people, the product will get better. Understanding the need for that.
I had a client interaction, or hoped to have them as a client interaction, that I left going, you totally screwed that up. Like, they were looking for structure and a Gantt chart and a pull plan. And I was like, that's not the way it works. At least for me, I'm going to respond to what the needs are that you have. And so I'm going to show up with some thoughts around that. But really, that's what it is. There isn't this like minutia of steps that I'm going to go through and do these 10 things and it's going to work out. Like, that's not what this is. And so again, I think some of it sometimes is like how the coachee wants to interact and what that starts to look like, because it's looser than most people probably think it is.
Yeah.
Would that be right?
But there's also coaches that dig specifically into the widget.
Yeah, that's what you were getting at. Like, when are we going to talk about work?
Yeah.
Like, that's what you were saying is people want to say, well, I need your insight on how we're going to make my budgeting and projections better. Like that. Oh, we're not doing that? That's what you're saying?
Kind of. Yeah. So like if the Unbounded Path product isn't specifically tackling that, I don't think people understand the absolute need for it. But you can pivot to that stuff all day. All day. Yeah, easy.
And I have clients that are like, "Hey, this is the conversation I need to have. Can we like talk through it?" Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Those are some of my favorite coaching sessions.
Yeah.
When they bring something and we hard pivot from my agenda,
yes,
bring it.
Yeah. And it's, again, because I think they're there to show up to get that work done. And so is it a matter of walking through how to do the work, or is it a matter of what is that thing in front of them that's kind of holding them back? So I think for me, the exciting part is, especially leaning into individuals in our industry, is I get to feed off of the stuff that they're bringing me and what they're experiencing in their roles and their responsibilities.
And so you got one-on-one coaching, group workshops, facilitator of leadership meetings, and then there's like this fourth new tier that like evaluating a company's professional development arm. So like Texo's launching, right? We're killing it.
Yeah.
And there's more trainings needed and trying to figure out what those trainings look like, kind of to this conversation that we're talking about.
Yeah.
So Holly was recently hired by Texo to really evaluate the needs of our industry and what we're currently doing with professional development and enhance it for the member experience.
Yeah.
So that's super cool. I can't wait to see what that looks like going into next year and beyond.
It's exciting because I think the cool thing is Melanie reached out and was like, "Hey, would you help me with this?" Well, it's you, Melanie. So of course, absolutely. Yeah. What can I do? Mm-hmm. But really having the opportunity to then go seek out those conversations with members of Texo and just listen to them. Like, what do you need, and where are you struggling with, and how can we partner better with you to make sure that your people are getting what they need from a professional development standpoint? And so that to me is super exciting. Again, because thinking back to the sort of I want to be a teacher. How do we do that better to really keep this industry moving at the pace and need that it needs to be going? And what's also super exciting about that is every conversation I have, people are excited to share that, which is awesome.
And you get one of the things that's great about the association is you get all the different data points. And it's one of you and I talked about it over the last year as you were spending time coaching people and say, what are y'all talking about? Because you get all the different data points to be able to say, hey, company A, you don't even know this is a thing, but company B is struggling with it, and it's going to be your problem in 3 months. Let's pre-solve.
Yeah. And
all those different data points start to like funnel towards something that's greater than any of the single companies could solve, address, assess, et cetera, on their own. And that's one of the many, many values of the association, and having folks like you guys popping in and out of different companies and listening to all the different problems and amalgamating that information in your brain to like cohesively solve. It's a Force multiplying superpower.
Yeah.
There, I put two together. How you like
There
that?
you go.
Today's DM.
I know.
Bam!
That's awesome.
It is a force. Texo period is a force multiplier.
Yeah.
You know, but what she's about to do is going to make that more exponential.
Hopefully.
Before we spin out of that, though, plug it. We plugged it, but like contact info. How do we get a hold of Holly Crowder?
Oh, I was like, what?
Plug it. That's offensive. What are you talking about? I've been talking for
Shut your trap. Let's move on to the next thing.
Before we move on, you be quiet.
You can reach out to me on LinkedIn, obviously. Holly Crowder on LinkedIn, some little doodad or whatever. But I have Unbounded Path is also on LinkedIn. And then I have a website, www.unboundedpath.com. And my email is just holly@unboundedpath.com.
It was available.
Yes.
Good.
That is that's a, like that whole thing is a deal, like figuring out the name situation and all that.
Did you have to buy the real estate or was it an open domain?
It was available. I did a lot of like researching around because I knew where I wanted my name to be going. And so figuring that out ahead of time was good.
Yeah.
So
I got a long
You didn't end up
email.
with unbounded-path.net
No.
co or something?
Yes, but like
She's an internet opus.
it's like,
What?
IO.io. How did I just overtech you? That'll never happen again.
Is that what it is? Is that what IO is?
Maybe.
I don't think that's
I don't know what that means. No.
Maybe.
I'm at .com.
.com.
I'm a tech moron. So
Internet opus. I'm going to Google
if
that.
I just
while we-
overtech Stewie, pin
That's
that.
pretty awesome.
Yeah, that'll never happen again.
Ding ding.
It's going to be the front of your episode. Sorry.
Yes, that's okay.
I'm going to make this about me. Stuart's
No.
Googling.
Yeah. IO, the internet domain IO is an abbreviation for input output.
No, incorrect.
As with respect to computer sciences. Read it and
How
weep.
about domain names?
That's what this is regarding, brah.
No. Now we're completely off track. Now
Now-
she's going to watch.
Now they both have their phones.
These were children.
Here's a good one. Why do people use the .io domain? Yeah, because .com wasn't available. That's
Yeah.
why.
That's right. Correct. Because it's 8 cents compared to 8,000 to buy it from some
Oh my gosh.
web
Cyber
real estate
squatter.
agent.
Yeah, cyber squatter in the Ukraine. Nah, it's probably not in the Ukraine, right?
I tried to shorten ours to facades because it's a long thing to type. And there's actually an facades glass company in Europe. I was like, come on, man.
Are they a good glass company in Europe?
No idea. No idea. They're not even mountain moving. It's probably Mark and Matt.
It's not Mark and Matt in Europe, though. It's like, yeah, I don't know, but it's not Mark and Matt.
Mateo and
Yeah, there it is.
Maximus.
Maximus
Well,
and
that's kinda
Mateo's.
pretty
They're in
cool.
Italy.
Maximus and Mateo, they could probably throw down. Probably should leave them alone.
And they're not doing glass. Their facades are like hand-hewn stone.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know.
I'm gonna go work there now.
Oh, man.
Where are they based?
Somewhere. Yonder.
Across the
The
ocean.
coast. The Amalfi Coast is where Facades.
That sounds fabulous.
Yeah. You're welcome. That's where let's go there.
We've got a new company over there.
Like
See, it's a little different than 3 years ago, right?
Yep.
just like you just show up, ding dong. They're like, actually, you have to knock. They don't have a doorbell.
It's like,
yeah,
come on.
like, hey, we're here for the
Slap this
facades. Yeah, we're here for the what? Now we're gonna work here. Is Matt here? You mean Mateo?
Bring me Maximus.
Oh boy.
Here we go. ALS.
Yes.
Serving an ALS. Let's get back.
One time, I can do this. I can just 90 degrees this. I think it was at the book launch party.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I saw Holly and I was like,
Yeah.
"Hey, what's up?" Yeah, and you're like, "I'm swimming across the ocean," or I forget
Yes.
exactly what it was. It was
I
something
gotta-
like that. And I was like, "Oh, excuse me," and they're like, "No, seriously, we're gonna paddleboard from here to Cuba." Or am I close yet? Something like this.
Close. You're on the right side of the country.
And I was like, "There's sharks and stuff," and you're like, "I know, but I'll be on a paddleboard." And
It'll be fine.
how am I close?
Yeah. So, Stacy got diagnosed with ALS in 2016. And I have been part of the ALS Association Texas chapter board since 2019. And since 2017, we have participated in the Walk to Defeat ALS as a fundraiser to really spread awareness and raise money for those families and patients living with ALS. But the walk is like 1.5 miles, and we always did it. We still do it. It's coming up in another week. But I was like, I need to do something a little bit bigger, more challenging, more adventurous. So my sister had said, hey, there's this paddleboard event that happens every summer, and you paddleboard from the Bahamas to the coast of Florida. For those of you that are geography challenged, that is the Atlantic Ocean. And so I said, okay, sure, let's do this. It's 80 miles across the ocean, and you have to do it in less than 18 hours. Sure, no problem. I was a recreational paddleboarder when I started this adventure. I'm still a recreational paddleboarder, I think. So yeah, my sister and I, along with 186 other people this past June, or this most recent June, paddled from Bimini, Bahamas. Bimini is a little tiny one of the many Bahamian islands, but it's the one that's closest actually to the coast of Florida. When the sky is clear and the lights are on, you can see Miami from not very far from off the coast.
Nice. Which is assuring, I'm assuming, on a paddleboard?
Yeah. So Miami is like due west of Bimini, kind of, and we were kind of going northwest because you wanted to catch the Gulf Stream, which is awesomely this. I don't remember if you in Finding Nemo they were they were following the other stream, but not the Gulf Stream, the other one.
The turtles got stuck in it.
Yeah. So, but anyway, so we did this in conjunction with Piper's Angels Foundations, which is actually a cystic fibrosis foundation that raises money for them. But we partnered as a nonprofit team to raise money for both cystic fibrosis and ALS, and had the most wonderfully cool and amazing experience. You leave the beach in the Bahamas at midnight, and you paddle through the dark, through the night, across the ocean, and your goal is to land on the coast of Florida by no later than 6 p.m. the same day. And so we practiced and we traveled back and forth to Florida to make sure we knew what the heck we were doing. Texas is a great big state, but we live in Dallas and there's no ocean close by. And so we practiced all of our paddles for the most part in the lakes around DFW. It's not the same as the ocean.
Less sharks.
Yeah, but there's like other stuff in the water here that we tried to not fall off our paddleboards. But
like hypodermic needles?
Well, there's alligators and there's those things called water moccasins.
Yes,
and
those are
there's
dangerous too.
Tires, and it's not clean all the time.
Needles.
Yeah, it's
alligators.
Equally dangerous.
And king cobras.
Equally dangerous.
Yeah.
But we our paddleboards are big. They're 14 feet long, and mine is 28 inches wide. So get out there on your paddleboard. And we left the coast of the Bahamas, and there was a thunder and lightning storm and fireworks as we were leaving, which was really, really cool. And it's very disorienting paddling in the ocean at night when it's not light out. But the hardest part probably was just not being able to sort of sense where the direction of the water was coming at you. There's a little bit, but we had a boat. Everybody has a support boat, and we followed our boat, and we did 30-minute rotation. So each of us every 30 minutes, one would get on the boat, one would get back on the board, one would get on, et cetera. So, but then you got out into the middle of the ocean in the middle of the day, and the water is just this like amazingly beautiful cobalt blue.
Placid? Like
we had parts that were the surface of the water was very, very smooth and small swells. When we left the beach, it was I don't know, they were probably 3 and 4 feet swells. We didn't have we had what I would say was great weather when we did it, until a storm decided to come off the coast of Florida, and they're like, "Oh, everybody's get on your boat because the weather's coming and it was thunder, lightning, and wind and rain and all the things. And from a safety perspective, it was like, no, you got to get on the boat. So we had to, unfortunately, we didn't paddle all of our 80. We got 65 of the 80 because we had to do a little bit on our boat. And then we finished the last 5 in some pretty choppy, yucky water because the storm had come through. But it was amazing. We signed up to do it again next year. So
get on the boat in the storm and like just roll or
just
avert
boat close to the, as close we couldn't get back in the water till we were within 5 miles of the beach. So, so our boat captain, she fired up the engines and we took off much faster than we had been paddling.
I could see that. Yeah.
So our fastest paddling, I think we were going 7 miles an hour.
So like to the warning / half joke, one of your teammates actually went super viral with a monstrosity of a hammerhead shark, I think it was.
Yeah.
Circling her.
Yeah.
Really happened.
So, yep. So, I mean,
I knew
you're in the ocean. There's sharks. So, we actually were lent from a good friend, Mr. Steve Springer, gave me his shark bands, which I don't know. Sharks are.
I didn't even know sharks were in bands.
They're not. They're not. But
there's a posse of sharks on your paddleboard.
Yeah, there's a cool technology. Sharks, have like electromagnetic senses or whatever, and so magnetized things that sort of repel the shark. So even if it was a placebo effect, I wore my shark band
for sure.
Because when I was in and out of the water, I did not want a shark to be anywhere near me.
Yeah, the penalty for wearing it is nothing.
Yeah, so we had our shark bands on, and we literally saw, I think, 3 pieces of sea life while we were out there. But one of the paddlers and her team, she was followed by a 6 or 7 foot hammerhead.
Oh, I thought it was bigger than that. Tall tale over here.
I mean, it's still a shark.
Yeah.
We'd been joking all week leading up to leaving the beach, though, that like hammerhead season is in May, typically, but the water gets too warm. It was like 85-degree water while we were paddling. So like the water's too warm. So they were supposedly supposed to all have been further north in the Atlantic Ocean, except that one.
They aren't the biting type though, are they?
I don't think there's been a human attack by a hammerhead, but
yeah,
she's like, you see the fin in the video, and then the fin under her, she's like, yeah, the shark was under my board. And like, she was very calm. I would not have been that calm.
Holly Crowder, you would have rode that hammerhead shark.
I would have
jumped in on the fin.
I would have been freaking out. My nephew was our crew, and he's a wildlife dude. He loves that kind of stuff. And so he, at one point, it's like, what is that? As I'm out there paddling, I was like, don't ever do that to me again. Don't ever do that again. Like, you have to be much calmer than that.
We're going to need a bigger boat.
I'd be the worst guide ever.
I was like,
what's that?
This is terrible. So, yeah. But yeah, that was my summer adventure. So
that is an adventure. It's like when you told me you were doing it, I was like, that's a terrible idea, but okay.
People did say, are you crazy? No, it was fun.
I won't tell it. What'd you say earlier? I won't tell a story just to tell a story, but we went on a paddle. It was a canoeing trip in the middle of nowhere once a long time ago, and I didn't want to do it really. But like once we did it, I signed up to do it again.
Yeah.
Because you're like, you know what? It was kind of awful in spots, but we had a really good time, and and that was setting aside it being for a really great cause. So, I mean, I jest, obviously. I get it. Like, it's a weird, awful, crazy, fun challenge to undertake, and you do it again because it was worth it.
Yeah.
I get that.
We actually signed up to do it so that we are giving ourselves a bigger challenge. We're going to try to do it competitively, meaning we're going to try to do it with faster time.
Yeah, you are.
Better paddling. We'll see.
You should get a stand-up paddleboard that has a motor on it, like, and just cheat.
A trolling motor underneath it. It's pretty silent. Man, she is crushing.
Like, why is she?
It's all form.
So
upper body strength is amazing.
Yeah.
It's crushing.
There's a hammerhead attached to the bottom. She's wiggling right through these waves.
I think the hammerhead's mouth is like on the bottom. It'd be almost impossible to get attacked by a hammerhead, right? I don't know.
You get rammed. Bam.
I don't know how I don't know.
You just poke it in the eye like this.
It wasn't a great white. It was a hammerhead.
Yeah, it has a weird like side beady eyes. Like, bro, you just stay in front. You can't even see me.
Don't get cross-eyed on me, Hammerhead.
Hey, what are you looking at? Boop. That was a Three Stooges joke. We just pantomimed a Three Stooges bit there.
Oh my gosh.
Sorry, Holly. We've ruined everything.
Oh, wow.
That's not the only thing with ALS, though. You got a big presentation coming. I don't know if there's any meat to that share.
I do. So like I said, I've been on the board of the Texas chapter. So ALS this year has gone through unification of all of the state chapters, or a predominant number of the state chapters have all unified under one organization. There was always one, but we all were individual chapters before. So this year's kickoff of the unification and what they call the mission assembly is getting hosted here in Dallas, which is cool because the main office is in DC, but they're all coming here. And so next week, I am the welcome speaker for the kickoff of the mission assembly, which is pretty exciting and nerve-wracking and whatnot. But it's another chance for me to share my story, but to really talk about the cool stuff that we're doing in Texas for patients and caregivers with ALS. And so an opportunity to spread the mission and spread awareness and just really highlight what is happening and the good things that are starting to happen for that disease. ALS is still considered a rare disease. About 6,000 people a year get diagnosed with it, which in the grand scheme of when you think about diseases, that is pretty small. It's not the rarest of diseases, but it's not highly prevalent. The struggle is, of course, we still don't really know what causes it across the board, and there is still no cure. And so the mission is to obviously find a cure, but really what we're really working toward in the next 7 years is how to make ALS livable for those that have been diagnosed with it. And that's through new medications that are coming online. So in 2017, the first medication in 22 years had been approved by the FDA for helping slow the progression of ALS. And since that time, there's been other drugs. A couple more have been approved by the FDA. So there's one that's specific to a genetic marker that is for predisposition of the disease. And then there's one that's another progression slowing medication. And it's actually one that I was super excited about because Stacy was in phase 2 of the trial of that drug.
Oh, that's neat.
And when he was taking it as phase 2, it was this terrible tasting liquid, like that he had to drink. And so it was so terrible tasting. Everybody that came to the house, that came to see him also was like when the milk is bad kind of thing. Oh, this is terrible. You got to try it.
Oh, yeah.
So like everybody was like, oh, this is terrible. But it went through phase 2 and phase 3 and it had great efficacy. And so it got approved last year as one of the new drugs that's online to help patients with ALS. And so
those are actually slowing it down.
Yes. And so one of the things that you think about with ALS is it's different for every person and how they experience it and where their symptoms come from. And so when you think about slowing it down, it's what aspect of it is slowing it down. And then there's reasons where you may not want to slow it down depending on where you are in your life cycle with the disease and things like that. So it's hugely moving forward with the level of research and the opportunities, but there's still so much work left to be done. There's a ton being done right now around the technology that aids individuals with ALS, and that's from the ability to use technology to help them communicate, to capture their voice so that their assistive device is using their voice versus the automated voice and stuff like that. Just like the wheelchairs and the things that they have that they've through science and research and technology are making things better. And that's really where we're moving towards is how do you make their lives livable, knowing that we're still fighting for that cure at some point, but really helping sort of navigate that. So my role in the board here is as to be that voice, that advocate, to raise awareness, to bring it to light, to share my story more. So I'm excited and like thinking about it's cool that they're coming to Texas, and in Texas, all the things that we're doing to sort of advance the care for those living with the disease.
Yeah, it is noble work for sure.
Yeah,
and it I'm not using the word altruistic a lot, but it is at this juncture altruistic work. It's
Yeah.
like it's for someone else completely, and it is a noble cause.
And I think so. This will be our 7th year doing the walk. The walk ends next Saturday, and so, or I guess it'd be Saturday when this goes live. But just seeing the families and the friends that come out to support those that the patients that with ALS that'll come out and do the walk, as well as those families, and then for families like mine, that's my opportunity for some of Stacy's friends to come back into town and we just go walk in his memory, and just it's a good community, and it pulls together and really driving forward to figure out how to stop this disease.
Yeah.
So
super proud of you.
Thanks, man.
So awesome.
Appreciate
all of that.
Appreciate that.
All of it.
Yeah.
I have 2 points to close with, which usually means one.
Or will it?
Or will it? Last time you were with us, you gave us a big closing nugget. What's the big takeaway, right? That was it then, but
ooh, what did I say the last time?
I
don't know.
I think it was it's okay not to be okay. I think that was the big takeaway. At least in my mind, it was. I hadn't listened back this morning to like prep for, but I think that was it, at least.
Yeah.
But what's draw that forward? Because you've had some experiences since then, and entrepreneurial and personal and all the things. Like, you got another one for us? You got another big takeaway?
I mean, I still believe it's okay to not be okay, but I also think it's okay to lean into that uncomfortable and be willing to open that door to that next opportunity. Because out of that uncomfortableness and sort of uncertainty can come great clarity as you go forward, and sort of figuring out what that looks like for you.
Yeah.
Coming through the healing.
Yeah.
So
I'll take that as a giant nugget too. It's perfect. Holly M. F. and Crotter. That's how we ended it right there. It's on the prep sheet. That's the facts.
Thanks, guys.